Because if the populace was okay with Israel genocide, if there wasn't protests, do you guys really think Emmanuel Macron would be saying anything right now? Do you guys really believe any of these European leaders would be saying right now, if it wasn't for the people power? Also, I want to ask you about the two-state solution. What's going on with that? Because there's a lot of legitimate debate about whether October 7th was worth it. And I think that's 100% legitimate because the how much the Palestinian people have suffered. But there is one fact, though, that I will just put out there. And I'm not arguing for or against it. This is something I want to put out there. Before October 7th, the amount of European countries and international support for a two-state solution was non-existent. That shit might as well have been dead. Then October 7th happened, the active resistance happened, and the two-state solution is now on the table where a lot of people are coming out in support of this. You guys have to remember, though, a lot of these European leaders, and I want your perspective, you can put back on me on this if you disagree. I feel like a lot of these leaders are full of shit. And the reason why they're doing this is because of the massive public sentiment that is now against Israel. So you have these leaders who are struggling politically. You have a rise of people in Europe who are now, to be clear, the world has always been for a free Palestine. The United States has been behind, but now it's worse than it's ever been. With the European youth being 100%, they 100% woken up about the Zionist regime. Like, I saw a poll in Japan. Like, bro, Japan is extremely anti-Zionist. I don't remember the number on top of my head, so I don't want to quote it. But Japan is one of the most anti-Zionist countries in the world now. And you guys know how close they are to the United States. Just to illustrate how bad it is worldwide. So I'm going to read this headline. And this is why the world leaders are calling out Israel. This is my thought. Because if the populace was okay with Israel genocide, if there wasn't protests, do you guys really think Emmanuel Macron would be saying anything right now? Do you guys really believe any of these European leaders would be saying right now, if it wasn't for the people power? Which is why, as a revolutionary, that's what I always want to stress. This wouldn't even be a conversation that we are having right now if Europeans wasn't turning against Zionism. So never let the ruling class disempower you. But let me read a headline for people who are only listening, don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Here's the headline. Amid Gaza outrage, Europe reaches a turning point on Israel. And this is what I mentioned earlier as well. This is WikiLeaks. And I'm gonna ask you about this shift against Israel in Europe and whether you're seeing it. But I'm gonna read this poll here. Support for Israel has collapsed across Western Europe. Spain, the government of Spain called for arms embargo. You said they minus 55. Denmark minus 54. Italy 52. France 48. UK minus 46. Germany minus 40. The guy, these are horrific numbers for the state of Israel. That's my presentation. But you guys see the two things I want to ask you is: are you seeing this decrease in support of Israel and what's your reaction to it? And I want you to discuss this conversation going on at the UN about a two-state solution and what your thoughts about that. Any thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be a summit at the UN at the middle of this month. I think the 17th to the 20th on a two-state solution. I'm very wary of this particular summit because in part because it's sponsored by the French, who still haven't recognized a Palestinian state, and the Saudis, who could have a great deal of influence and use their power for good, but they're constantly playing footsie with the United States, and they have their own economic interests and so on, obviously. So I feel like they are using this as a way of pretending that they're doing something, and I think a lot of other countries are going to latch onto it in that way. When the U.S. vetoed just this week, some countries made statements, and for example, Pakistan, in their statement, they actually used the word genocide, which was good, but they actually said we look forward to the French and Saudi summit, which it is probably, to talk about a two-state solution now in the face of a genocide seems, paltry at best.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
should have wrapped up the two-state stuff 10, 20 years ago at the latest. And if they are going to do this, then they should do it for real and talk about the real legacy of international law in Israel. So, for example, the right of return for refugees, and reparations, and all of these other things that would come with a meaningful two-state solution. Now, you know, that could. I'm not precluding a one-state solution. So I'm very wary of this upcoming thing on the 17th. But I want to emphasize what I said earlier. This coming week on the 12th is going to be a General Assembly meeting. And that poses far more substantial opportunities if it's used right. If you can have the General Assembly doing things with teeth, sanctions, arms embargo, suspending Israel, peace force. Those are things that could be done through the General Assembly. Some of those things could actually be done through this two-state solution thing, but because it's France and Saudi Arabia obviously has its own crimes in Yemen and elsewhere. So I'm very wary of that.
Yeah. I want to share this as well. And you mentioned
I should go after this.
Yeah, absolutely. We wrap up. We wrap up after this. The two-state solution, I would never undermine the attempt to establish a two-state solution. I would never undermine it. I just don't trust Israel to not attack Palestine. Like, you guys see how psychotic Israel is? Like, I don't trust Israel not to constantly attack Palestine, even if we had a two-state solution. Just one of many reasons why I'm opposed to it. But I believe in a one-state solution, but I'm not going to undercut like the Palestinians who asked for a two-state solution. I think it's upon us, especially as Americans, to take the left position of many Palestinians. We should take the radical position in order to provide cover for them, because many Palestinians can't even advocate for a one-state solution or they will be killed, labeled as a terrorist. But anyway, let me move on. I know you're short on time. I'm gonna just quickly read this headline to show you guys why you was right to be skeptical, because in the beginning you said you were skeptical about this. So once again, the reason why I mentioned people power is because the reason why they're saying this stuff, because there is massive pressure on France. There are people in the street in France calling for France to sanction Israel. So Emmanuel Macron has to bullshit. So the reality of the situation is, your instinct is correct, Sam. I think this conference is bullshit.